anytime, anywhere for free. Don't forget to add BFM 부산영어방송 to your Kakao friends list.
Man, I haven't got a chance.
The time is now 7 o'clock.
In their 50s and 60s, well, they've been through quite a lot. They knew Korea during its poorest days, through its economic growth, to a powerhouse that it is now. Personally, they've been through and are still going through quite a bit, being the only generation to be caregivers for their own elderly parents, but unlikely to be taken care of by their own children. They are also the first generation whose post-retirement life may also entirely depend on their pension. They are indeed a complicated group, but they are also the generation that held our country up for decades. And now, isn't it the country's turn to help them stay afloat? I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Tuesday, June 4th on BEFM 부산영어방송. Good morning, wavers out there. I hope you're doing well. Taking a little peek out the window we have in our studio. Well, it looks really nice and sunny, at least for now. Well, today we are talking about, I think, a very important segment of the population here in Korea. You know, with South Korea being an aging society, how we age is a matter of great importance. So for a new generation of seniors or those who are on their way, we're looking basically today at people, those who are in their 50s and 60s. So this generation is defined by a fairly solid level of economic stability, high interest in health, and yes, definitely high participation in social and leisure activities as well. In Busan, there are 830,000 people between the ages of 50 and 64. And 702,000 senior citizens. So those between 50 and 64 on average earn between 3 to 4 million won. And this is the first generation. This generation is the first who will see much of their post-retirement income be comprised of their pension. With this, they were able to be more active, seek out, more leisure and entertainment activities. However, based on a Busan Development Institute survey, well, it seems like they don't feel satisfied with the level of leisure they are getting. Currently, most government programs focus on senior citizens. But taking care of oneself, as we know, it really starts much earlier than that. It's not just about like you hit 65 and then bam, there it is, right? It should be a gradual buildup, should it not? And a robust physical and social life. Well, that does help with one's mental health. That has been proven study after study. And really, don't we want to reduce the burden, the future burden on society? Well, this is something that you may be thinking, oh, I'm so young, I don't have to think about it. But the fact is this, everyone ages. And it does fall on the individual, but also the community to make sure that its members are aging well. That is our main theme for today, so we will talk about that throughout the program. For now, though, let's talk about hobbies. So I just mentioned, this generation of, 50 to 64-year-olds, really, on average, they were able to enjoy things like hobbies and leisure time. So what hobbies did you have in the past? And what hobbies do you have now? Meaning, like, has your hobby or have your hobbies changed according to where you are in life? For example, maybe before you got married, you enjoyed this. And then now, after marriage, or maybe after marriage and a kid or two, it has changed. Or maybe for you, it has stayed the same. By the way, if you have anything you want to recommend, like, oh, you guys should try this. We want to hear that also. 자, 오늘은 취미에 대해서 이야기를 해볼 건데요. 여러분, 과거. 예를 들어서 결혼 전이나 취업 전에 취미가 이거였는데 현재의 취미 똑같은지 아니면 바뀌으셨는지 그리고 미래에 도전해보고 싶은 취미까지 그리고 다른 웨이브 분들한테 이거 꼭 해보세요. 추천하는 것도 받겠습니다. So send in your messages to BFM's live stream, live chat on YouTube, pound 9050. That's going to cost you 101. Also, you can reach me for free on Kakao Talk. You can listen to our program in so many different ways. So maybe you're in your car, 90.5, 103.3 FM. Also, like I just said, we are streaming live right now on YouTube. So you can listen to us and watch us. You can use that platform to watch us again. And also, of course, you can use the Patbang app. Looking ahead to our morning together. So what do we have? We have Andrew with Sports Insider, Bonnie with the health for today's special interview. So we're going to be talking about this. North Korea. We have been hearing in the news about those notorious balloons, right? Yes. So what has South Korea been doing in response? And what does this mean for the future relationship between the two Koreas? That is definitely of big concern. We're going to talk about that in special interview. And in the meantime, I'll be back with today's headlines. It is now 7:06, and these are today's headlines. South Korea to suspend 2018 Inter-Korean Military Pact. The Presidential National Security Council, or NSC, decided yesterday to suspend the September 19th military agreement until mutual trust is restored in response to North Korea's massive sending of trash-carrying balloons. Government reviewing accepting trainee doctors' resignations. The health ministry said yesterday it will actively review accepting resignations by striking doctors to allow them to seek other career paths and announced that the Korean medical licensing examination will be held as scheduled from September 2nd. Yoon conducts bilateral summits with African leaders. President Yoon Suk-yeol yesterday began holding a series of bilateral summits with leaders from African nations visiting the country to attend this week's Korea-Africa Summit. SK chairman apologizes after record divorce ruling. SK chairman Choi Tae-won issued an apology yesterday for the distress his personal matter has caused to the corporation's employees and stakeholders following a record 1.38 trillion won divorce settlement ruling. Israel confirms death of 4 more hostages in Gaza. The Israeli Defense Forces have confirmed the deaths of 4 more people abducted by Hamas on October 7th and have informed the families. These are today's headlines. Listeners, it's time for Busan Updates. We have Haley in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, it's looking so nice out there. Let's
It's
hope
really beautiful out.
it holds, right? Well, before we get into our updates today, let's talk about your hobbies. Are they the same? Are they different? What do you do in your leisure time?
Definitely different. Not married, obviously. So I think it's pre and post getting a job and like making my own money. So when I was a student, I made a lot of stuff. Like I made earrings and I made like a little bit of jewelry because I just didn't want to spend money on things. And then once you have a job, like time becomes a bigger capital because
That's true.
I gotta rest. I have to sleep. I have to shower. I have to wash my hair. Oh, it's such a chore.
Right.
So I just kind of outsource that to brands. But yeah, I mean, recently I've taken up working, but is working out a hobby? Aren't you supposed to enjoy hobbies?
I don't know. Do you enjoy working out and running? Do you?
I do it. I don't unenjoy is not a word.
I don't not enjoy it.
I don't not enjoy. I don't hate it. But it's more of a duty.
Yeah.
I feel like it's more of a, well, I mean, in my 20s, early 20s, I took a huge break from working out. That was a hobby because I felt like I didn't have to, because my 20-year-old body was like, sure, this is cool, but like, we don't need it. But now my not 20-year-old body's like, unless you do this, you're going to die. Like you're going to collapse. So yeah, build muscle.
So do you consider it a hobby now, working out?
I consider it a thing I do, but not a hobby.
But what's one thing that you really enjoy doing?
I used to take art class.
Right.
And then I really did enjoy that. It was very relaxing. And I have taken a break from it because once again, time is it's a thing.
Yes.
But I do, like, honestly, I feel like I'm going to get a lot of pushback, but I do enjoy working. Yeah, I see that little awkward pause.
No.
As
that
Catherine was like
pause?
digesting it, she's like,
No. The pause is like, oh, I hope my family's not listening. Like sometimes,
it's a nice break.
yeah.
I mean,
Work is good.
from what I hear, and then I'm like, I love communicating with our listeners, like yammering on air, and you guys are forced to listen to me yammer. It's a hobby. Talking is a hobby, and I do that as a job. So
Well, you do it well, so it's okay.
Oh, thank you.
All right, let's jump into our first update. So Busan City is looking to get the environmental protection restrictions over vast swaths of land lifted.
Right. So Busan City is looking to get these green belt restrictions lifted across Haeundae and Gangso districts, and that would encompass some 34 square kilometers. In Korean unit, that's 1,000 평, 1,000평 of land, in order to use the land for future industries. So the government has this policy, the national government, of providing exceptions for greenbelt restrictions if they're for strategic regional projects for overall balanced regional development.
Yes.
So specifically in Busan, in Haeundae, that would be the site of the military's 53rd Division and also the 2nd Eco-Delta City plot in Gangso, which the city has already turned in the application for these restriction lifts with the Land and Infrastructure Ministry. So these plots of land, they will be used for a logistics platform in conjunction with the new Gadok Airport. And then in Haeundae, the city is seeking to build a science park with research institutes and startups.
Right.
And that was a 1,000만 평, excuse me. That would be, right. So that would be much larger plot of land. Right, sorry.
Not 1,000평.
Not 1,000평, 1,000만 평, sorry. And the city said that it's going to continue to make these requests not only for that particular plot, but overall to the government in order to propel new growth and really make the physical spaces.
Absolutely. Well, in line with the city's efforts, Busan's ranking as a smart city, apparently it's rising. Good news, right?
So we get these figures from the British global consulting firm, ZN, once or twice every year.
Yes.
And the Smart City Index for this particular season, Busan came in 14th out of 79 major cities.
Okay.
So this is actually a big jump. Busan City entered the list just 3 years ago in 62nd place.
Yes.
It jumped to 41st in the next ranking, it jumped to 19th last May, and it's actually been keeping its goal of staying within the top 20 for a couple of years. So there were actually only 2 other cities in Asia that ranked higher than Busan.
Which are?
And that was Singapore at 7th place and Hong Kong at 12th. So if you notice, that means we actually surpassed Seoul as a smart city.
I mean, I know we're all like one country,
this isn't a relationship of hostility, but
No.
I mean, but you know, balanced regional development is key. So if you know a non-Seoul city does do better than Seoul, that it's a testament of balance.
Well, the program is called Morning Wave in Busan.
We do work for
And I know we
BEFM.
have listeners all over in Seoul and Gyeonggi and everywhere else, but yay. So what factors propelled Busan in this field?
Right. So Busan was deemed especially competitive in 4 out of 5 categories, rather. It ranked really high in business environment, infrastructure, and overall reputation. Also, for the first time, it broke into the top 10 for financial support. So, yeah, meaning it's a great place to have a business.
Yes,
Right.
yes. So here's hoping we stay within the top 20 and just keep on moving up that, the rankings. Well, we previously talked about the controversy surrounding the name 에코델타 in Dongseo, right? And which apparently would have been like the first English name for a neighborhood, but apparently it got like a final no from the government.
It did. So 에코델타동 will no longer be Eco-Delta neighborhood. So Dongseo district was looking to create the country's first English name for a legal neighborhood or borough.
Yes.
But that attempt has been stopped by the government. Of course, this was a topic of public scrutiny. I believe it was one of our wa글와글 topics. And the Ministry of Interior and Safety yesterday officially decided to decline that approval request for Eco-Delta동. So even the district and Busan City, they were actually torn on it. The district obviously requesting approval pro-Eco-Delta based on public opinions from its residents.
Okay.
However, Busan City actually conveyed to the ministry opposition from organizations like the Korean language protection groups and other civic groups.
Well, it does seem that the ministry sided with the city, right?
It did. So the ministry turned down the request based on the reasons that, number one, the name does not actually fit the Act on Basic Korean Language and the Ordinance on the Korean Language Promotion.
Okay.
So basically, when it comes to names, official names in public documents, the government should use easy to understand Korean language. Even compared to words that are like rooted in Chinese, we should use purely Korean words because they are easier to understand.
Yes, yes.
The ministry also expressed concerns that if we open the floodgates, it may set a bad precedence for other municipality than coming up with these English-based names. I mean, we have all talked about the very long apartment names.
Really fancy.
And we don't want to go there.
Yes. All right. So the decision is in once again. All right. Next up, Pass launched last year, and apparently it's been quite successful.
Right. So Pass is the public transportation card launched by Busan City. If you use over 45,000 won on public transportation, you can get up to 45,000 won back and the amount surpassing that. So the Busan Development Institute released its report on the Pass usage based on not only data but also survey from users. The number of Pass users actually increased by 146% between August of last year when it launched and the end of last year.
Okay.
And on average, people got 26,000 won back monthly, so it's a pretty good amount. And the whole point of Pass is now to encourage public transportation usage, and it seems to have been successful on that front.
Sure.
So 77% of experts and nearly 70% of citizens thought that the Pass helped them to encourage public transportation usage. Actually, 56% of people who responded who said that they used to drive apparently now take public transportation because there's an incentive. There's a monetary incentive to doing so. And it's kind of like a game because you need to get to that 45,000 won level to get money
threshold?
back. So it's like building up. You're like, well, I have to. Well, I'm going to take the bus anyways. So then collectively that led to over 2,500 ton of carbon footprint reduction.
Oh, good.
So yeah, that's really good news.
Yes.
So in terms of what the city can do to improve these services, the Development Institute proposed implementing the system for teens, also linking that to the K-Pass, which is the national system, which is similar, allowing for transfers to neighboring Gimhae and Yangsan cities, as well as even in-app services to being able to pay with your phone.
Yes, so definitely good news, and it seems that they're looking into expanding the services. So hopefully we'll see more people using it. All right, next up, lastly, this is a month of patriots and veterans, and so there is a special exhibition going on regarding, the patriots and veterans, right?
There is. So it's called Hello Beacon. So it consists of 3 different exhibitions at the Beacon ground in Mangmi area. So it's for citizens to commemorate the history of the month of patriots and veterans, as well as culture and art exhibitions that'll go on for 3 weeks during this month.
Okay.
So the exhibition is being held under 2 themes, historical images and coexistence. So there's like a webtoon exhibit of life during the Korean War. It's called 굳세어라 금순아, Stay Strong Kumsun. It's a story of a fictional family of a girl named Kumsun when the Korean War broke out, and it'll kind of walk you through all the original city center neighborhoods and what life looked like back then.
Sure.
The coexistence exhibition is all about the people, and it features works by 15 artists who have developmental disabilities, and they actually work out of the Beacon ground, and it works as an artist cultural collaboration as well. So the event starts this Friday the 7th, and it'll run through the 21st, and check that out. And it's, a district that's full of cafes and other great little shops, so
Yes.
definitely go there.
Well, thank you for all the updates today. We'll check in with you real soon with the news, of course. Thank you, Haley. Now back to you, the waivers. We're talking about hobbies. Basically, 취미가 뭐예요? Has it changed over the years? Whether you are at end stage in your life or whether you've gotten married or vice versa, maybe you became recently single, you broke up with somebody. Do your hobbies change over time? Why not? That's a part of life. It's not, who says the end game is getting married? Anyhow, 취미생활 대해서 이야기를 나누고 있으니까 I want to know what you're thinking. And now, here is your traffic and weather. It's now 7:20. This is your traffic and weather. There is some congestion on the Dongseo overpass from Hwangnyeong ramp going to the old Kaegeum toll gate. There's also a broken down cargo truck at the entrance of Baegang Tunnel that is going into the Sujong Tunnel, from the Sujong Tunnel going to the Baegang Tunnel direction. So it's right at the entrance of Baegang Tunnel. Please be aware of this. I'm sure it's causing quite a bit of congestion. As for the weather, it's 16 degrees under, it says partially sunny skies or cloudy skies, but for now, we do see some sunlight. So here's hoping definitely that it's going to clear out for the afternoon, expected high of 26 degrees Celsius. As for the rest of the nation, it will be mostly clear with some cloud coverage in Gangwon. There may be some light raindrops coming down on the eastern coast of southern Gyeongbuk and showers in parts of Gangwon and Jeonnam, even with thunder and lightning in the afternoon. So that means the roads might become slippery, so take every precaution necessary. This was your traffic and weather.
Check this out.
This is Morning Wave Busan.
Everybody, wait a minute.
This is Morning Wave.
Morning Wave.
You are listening to
Morning Wave.
Morning Wave in Busan.
What show is this?
This is Morning Wave in Busan.
Here we go. Morning Wave in Busan.
It's time for News Digest. We still have Haley in the studio with us right now. By the way, why were you laughing when I was saying?
I just didn't expect that. I mean, true. Your hobbies do change. I mean, I'm not even talking about divorce, but
Right.
just like breakups, because
Breakups, yes.
they do change. And
I don't
sometimes for the better, you get to focus on yourself.
Sure, and like,
You do save a lot of money when
I
you're
don't
not in a
know.
relationship.
is the end goal always to get married? Is my I know I might, people might disagree with me. Is it?
It
I don't
ain't
know.
mine. So, sorry. Oh, that came out. Yeah.
All right. Well, first bit of news. If this is true, it would be a game changer. South Korea could have, oh my gosh, massive oil and gas reserves. Is this true?
Fingers crossed.
Yes,
knock on
knock on
wood,
wood.
whatever.
Yeah.
There was salt. So, for the longest time, like, whatever. Do your parents say that when you leave the lights on? They're
Yes.
like, 기름 한 방울 안 나는 나라에서. Like South Korea
Right.
does not have a single drop of oil. We could, at least according to the president.
Oh.
So President Yoon Suk-yeol announced yesterday that potentially massive oil and gas reserves could be buried off of Pohang's Yeonggil Bay. And not just the president, but scientists too.
Okay.
Specifically, the reserve could hold up to 14 billion barrels of oil and gas. By the way, that means if it is true, that would meet the country's gas demands for 29 years and 4 years worth of oil demands. So this announcement was made in a last-minute press briefing by the president and the energy minister An Deok-gun, and this is the first time the president has ever held such briefing, which points to kind of how much of a big deal it is.
It is indeed. But okay, we got to talk about the science. Is there evidence? If so, what evidence is there regarding this potential reserve?
Right. So according to the energy minister An, the Korea National Oil Corporation, they had been drilling for oil and gas off the coast, and they confirmed a high probability that it could be buried under the EC.
Yes.
So the government discovered this high likelihood of additional oil and gas fields around the EC in February of last year. And a leading deep sea technology evaluation company, which was unnamed, they were commissioned to conduct an in-depth geophysical survey. So therefore, the president has approved an exploration of a drilling plan with preliminary results to come by the first half of next year. So we have to wait about a year.
Sure.
But in terms of how, when we'll actually get the resources, that could take at least 3 years. So, we will have to wait.
Yes.
But Minister An estimated if it is true, the value of the reserves could be equivalent to 5 times the market value of Samsung Electronics, which is the biggest company in the country.
Yes. So assuming it's true, I'm sure they're not just saying it. Hopefully. And so we'll await the good news and see when we'll have access to the reserves. Next up, though, apparently there are parts of the country that don't have access to even the most basic foods, really?
And we're talking about like milk and meats. This is called food desertification.
Yes.
Or areas in the country where there are no food retailers, supermarkets, convenience stores. And these areas are actually growing due to aging and disappearance of remote villages. So for example, let's look at Yeohang in Hamang County, Hamang-gun, which by the way is about an hour away from Busan. So that's eye-opening.
Right.
There is no grocery store. And if you need to go somewhere, you need to catch a bus downtown, and that's 30 minutes each way. Well, that's not the biggest issue because the bus runs every hour and a half. So
Wow.
yeah. Right. So the village is a super aged village.
Yes.
And there are 2 grocery stores recently closed down. The nearest retailer, it is only 2.2 kilometers away, which is 4 minutes by car. But most of these residents don't drive and they have to walk an hour. And these are seniors. And I mean, everything just builds up because if you're walking, then you're not going to be able to get a week's worth of groceries.
Because you have to carry that back to your house.
You're just going to have a carton of eggs or something.
Something light.
So in these smaller areas, the Upmyeon small towns of Gyeongnam, there are 3,200 of these Upmyeon towns. Only 1,200, so a third of them have food retailers, meaning 2/3 don't.
This is such a big issue.
This is 2024.
Right.
It is, So then it leads to several issues. So elderly residents say that unless their adult children bring them milk, they don't drink it. They can't drink it. So nutrition. Because the only readily available food group is then basically vegetables, which they can grow in their own gardens.
Sure.
And I mean, fiber is great, but especially for seniors, you need protein, you need calcium, you need whatever,
dairy.
carbohydrates, dairy. So that's hard to come by. And then this exacerbates the population problem because maybe you want to retire and move to kind of a remote, quiet town.
Yes.
But if there's no grocery store, you're not going to move there.
Right.
So then it really then leads to further decline of population with people with available means who are currently living there likely wanting to move out to somewhere that has more infrastructure.
Indeed. Well, thanks for bringing this to light for our listeners. I mean, just somewhere that's really just an hour away.
The thing is, we can't fault businesses for leaving when, of course, but I mean,
we need something for them,
right? 2024.
Exactly. All right. Lastly, this is the year of elections, right? All around the world. And we're going to go to Mexico today, where the country has elected its first ever female president.
It did. So Claudia Sheinbaum won the vote, and she won actually 60% of the votes for a landslide victory. It does mark a historic achievement because, I mean, Mexico, it is known for being quite machismo in its cultural context, very Catholic, and it is very patriarchal. So she is a former mayor of Mexico City, which is kind of considered a major, political elite position. It is known as
like
kind of a stepping stone
right.
towards a higher office. And she's a very esteemed scientist, a part of the UN panel of climate scientists that received a Nobel Peace Prize. So she's not a laureate per se, but she was in that team. And she also has the backing of the outgoing president, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador.
Sure.
And Obrador has been in power since 2018. He is still very popular. He has around 60% approval rating. But in Mexico, presidents may only serve a single 6-year term.
I see.
So he endorsed Sheinbaum early on, which helped her win. But now her challenge is for her to get out of her predecessor's shadow and establish her own politics. But she has stressed that during the campaign, she has pledged to continue the previous administration's policies in terms of strengthening national companies, immigration, and green energy.
Very interesting. Though, speaking of immigration, this election is of much interest to its northern neighbor, the United States, right?
Right, because Mexico is a key ally of the U.S. in many different aspects. It is America's number one trade partner,
right?
Also important partner in drug policy and immigration. So in recent months, the U.S. has grown even more dependent on Mexico for immigration enforcement, basically stopping illegal immigration on the southern end of the border.
Yes.
Also, because illegal immigration is such a contentious issue in the lead up to the presidential election in the U.S. And also, of course, the war on drug trafficking, problem for both countries. So the U.S. has been seeing a fentanyl crisis, which does flow in from Mexico for the most part. And as for Mexico, it does face increasing cartel-linked violence.
And that actually leads us to the last major point about this election. And I'm talking about the astounding rates of violence.
Right. It has been concerning. It has been quite violent. So at least 35 political candidates or applicants were murdered since June 2023 because gangs are trying to influence those coming to power, trying to intimidate them.
Yes.
Including a mayoral candidate several days ago, and even we reported on that yesterday, even during, polling. 2 people died, election officials and voters. So some candidates did renounce their bids in fear of retaliation. They don't
want to die.
So unfortunately, the cartel strategy worked. And even after the election, the new government will have to deal with the issue of violence because although the murder rate did fall in Mexico between 2019 and 2020, in absolute numbers, the country is still reeling from historically high levels of homicides. Around 30,000 people are murdered each year.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Yes. Well, thanks for reporting on this election plus all the news. We'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
And with that, we are ready for our first song break. 피디님, 이거 곡 이름이 Time이에요? One Time. So it is One Time by One Time.
I guess wow 우리도 지금까지 how 너무도 긴 시간을 vow 참아왔던 것 you know what the time how we kick right now 우리가 모든 것을 엎어 지금 이곳에서 벗어나고 싶어 oh my god 너희 모두 기다려온 one time처럼 다시 시작하는 거야 다 같이 wow yippee 또 같이 반복됐던 소치 속에 이제껏 소리쳐 댔었던 바보 같던 너의 거짓된 눈바로 떠 무시 보이나 one time 무엇을 원하는가 one time 숨겨졌던 어제와 오늘의 내 미래 자신 있게 with the one time track one time is one time for your mind 원하는 것을 다 너에게 주겠어 우리는 one time 조금씩 다가와 우리 함께 가는 거야 이대로 아직도 뭔 말이 거지다 뭔 소리지 왜 알아듣지 못한 말로 짓거리지 Yo T to the T 이제는 말하지 Excuse me 사라져버려 모두 다가가 진실들을 향해 전부 다가가 느끼니? 우리 힙합 속에 감춰진 자유 그 누구도 따라 할 수 없는 걸 전제가 와서 빨리 모든 걸 너희들이 가려줄 시간들이 눈앞에 있지 Yo, 이제 모두가 깨달아야 하지 함께 원티와 M을 크게 외쳐봐 우리는 영원할 거야 That's right 보다 멀리 더 멀리 날아가리 저 높은 곳에 우리 모두 하나가 되리 One time is one time for your mind 원하는 것을 다 너희에게 주겠어 우리는 one time 조금씩 다가와 우리 함께 가는 거야 이대로 And we won't stop One time is one time for your mind 원하는 것을 다 너희에게 주겠어 우리는 one time 조금씩 다가와 우리 함께 가는 거야 이대로 One time 조금씩 다가와 우리 함께 가는 거야 이대로 One time is one time for your mind 너희에게 주겠어
Welcome back, everybody. People were enjoying that oldie but goodie. Apparently, am I the only one that didn't know that song? I feel embarrassed now. But anyhow, it's 7:35. Our topic today is a generation in their 50s and 60s. Those that are in or maybe nearing retirement age. And I have to say, today's 50-something is like the new. I mean, I don't know. I don't think of 50 people in their 50s as like old or older even, so young. But anyhow, we do have to address the concerns and worries of this generation. First, they are the first generation to have a dual burden of care. So what am I talking about? About half of those in their 50s and 60s provide financially for either their grown children or elderly parents, or both. That's what I'm talking about. So to make up for this, about half of those who are retired still work 2.3 jobs on average. Well, the good news is that most of the near senior population saw themselves as being in good health and felt young at heart, viewing the actual age of seniors starting at 70 rather than the legal age of 65. And, you know, I tend to agree with that. Like, the perception is so different nowadays, right? However, 30% of those surveyed did worry about dying a lonely death. That is really sad, right? With that figure especially high in those in low-income classes. So with the country aging rapidly, we have a plethora of issues, right? From leisure to social safety and making sure that this new era, this new age of seniors have the best quality of life they can. And like I said earlier, we're all going to get there, right? If we're not there already, we're going to get there. So let's now switch gears. We're going to talk about leisure, your hobbies. 취미생활. What hobbies did you have in the past? What hobbies do you have now? What do you want to try out? Maybe if you are really into something, you can convince us or recommend something to us as well. 자, 오늘은 생활, 취미에 대해서 이야기를 나누고 있는데요. 지금은 취미가 무엇인지, 그리고 과거에는 예를 들어서 when you were younger, 젊었을 때, 어렸을 때, 혹은 결혼 전 바뀌었는지도 궁금합니다. And 다른 웨이버님들한테 추천할 취미가 있으시면 그것도 보내주시고 let's look at some of your responses. I'm so curious as to what your hobbies are. All right. First up, we have 태진 Waver who says 결혼 전 취미는 산악 자전거 타고 이산저산 타면서 드론으로 촬영했는데 결혼 후 밖에 잘 못 나가서 건당 레고 조립 레땡 조립 및 아이들이랑 놀아주기가 취미입니다. And then at the end he says 미래 취미는 미정이에요. Basically, real quick, it means before he was married and had kids, he used to really enjoy going out on his bicycle, maybe mountain biking, and even filming things with his drone. And now, after marriage and kids, it's more like putting those blocks together to create things with his kids and just spending a lot of time with his children. And he doesn't know what his future hobby might be, so maybe you can suggest something. 고수 Waver says this. 저는 결혼 전과 후 아직 하고 있는 취미 당구예요. So 고수 says he enjoys playing. We call it pool or billiards, right? In English. 고등학교 때부터 아직까지 하고 있는 유일한 취미이기도 해요. Cushion ball, I think it's called 쓰리 쿠션이라고 불리죠. 를 즐겨 한답니다. I've never played cushion ball. 저 한 번도 안 해봤는데요. It looks so difficult because I'm so used to 한국에서는 이거 포켓볼이라고 하죠. Like the pocketball billiards. I'm so used to that. So that sounds really interesting. He's been doing it since high school. So wow, the fact that you have been able to maintain your hobby for all these years, kudos to you. All right, for now though, we got to get to our hot clip for this Tuesday morning. Today, our hot clip is covering another trial. This time, not about Donald Trump. It is actually regarding a Biden. Not Joe Biden, but his son, Hunter Biden. So, a jury has been seated in the federal gun case against President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden. And so, let's listen to the clip from ABC News.
The trial of Hunter Biden begins at the federal courthouse in Wilmington, Delaware, the first time in U.S. history that the child of the sitting president has gone on trial. President Joe Biden's only living son faces 3 federal gun charges for allegedly obtaining a firearm while he was addicted to drugs. For years, Hunter Biden has spoken publicly about his struggles with addiction.
I've made mistakes in my life and wasted opportunities and privileges I was afforded. For that, I'm responsible.
Prosecutors say that in October 2018, during a time they say Hunter Biden was addicted to drugs, he purchased this Colt revolver and allegedly lied on a federal form that he was not addicted to drugs. In his memoir, Beautiful Things, Biden writing that in the fall of 2018, he had hopes of getting clean through a new therapy. Through it all, President Biden has stood by his son.
I have great confidence in my son. I love him. And he's on a straight and narrow, and he has been for a couple years now. And I'm just so proud of him.
The trial is expected to be deeply personal and potentially embarrassing for the first family. Prosecutors are relying on photos and text messages from Hunter Biden, including this one allegedly sent just 2 days after purchasing the gun. I was sleeping on a car smoking crack on 4th Street and Rodney. Biden's own Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed a special prosecutor, David Weiss, a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney in Delaware, to oversee this case. Weiss reached a plea deal with Hunter Biden last year, but during a hearing in July, that deal fell apart after tough questioning by the same federal judge who will now oversee Hunter Biden's trial.
So as you heard in that clip, Joe Biden's son Hunter on trial for the federal gun case against him. So this is quite serious. Anytime it's a federal case, yes, it could be quite serious. The First Lady, Joe Biden, was in the front row of the courtroom. And I have to say, like, the last couple of days of Hot Clips, it's just been like historic stories about trials regarding, former presidents. And in this case, the son of a sitting president. So this was your Hot Clip for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
It is time for Sports Insider. We have Andrew. Oh, it's not Movember. What's going on? Hello. Good morning.
This is Beard June.
Beard June.
I don't know. No,
you don't know what's going on.
Lazy.
Is that what it is?
Just laziness, yeah.
But you look really tan.
A little bit. I think, do you know what? I do have a decent tan on the go right now, but before I left my house, I put sun cream on.
Yes.
And it enhances.
Oh, it enhances a tan?
It's not that it's like a special sun cream. I don't know why. In about probably an hour, it'll go down.
Oh, it will?
Yeah.
Okay. You look good. You look good.
Well, thank you.
Hey, real quick.
Yeah?
Hobby.
Sure.
What is it?
I would say sports. A hobby that I would like to do more of would probably photography.
Oh.
Maybe. I would like to get into that. Yeah.
Of your kitties or of other stuff?
They get enough cell phone shots. But
yes.
I don't know, maybe that. Also, you had a question. You were talking about people over 50 caring for, themselves and their children. I think there's two things, or 50 you said 50 doesn't seem like it did before.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is when you're getting closer to that age, you don't realize that you don't feel it's that old anymore.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm getting there too. Also, another thing I was reading is that people are waiting later to have children.
That's true.
Compared to when I was a kid. I don't know. I think my mom had her first child at like 21, which was really common for boomers. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true.
So, but for hobbies, sports, I'd like just try to stay active. But then I don't know. Photography would be peaceful. Yeah, hockey. I just played hockey on Sunday, actually. Yeah, it's good.
All right. Well, speaking of sports.
On the sports, yeah. So we're gonna start things here with an update from the French Open, which is taking place in France at Roland Garros. Novak Djokovic, the world number one tennis player, recently survived a 5-set battle against Lorenzo Musetti in the fourth round of the French Open. Now, most people are thinking, oh, you must be talking about this because of Djokovic. No. It's because the match concluded at 3 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
Local time. Now, people might think, oh, you're talking about time in here in Korea. No. Local time in Paris. All right, which, kept Djokovic alive for the tournament. The victory isn't exactly what everyone is talking about when it comes to this, because I think people thought he should have won anyway. But
yes. But, 3 a.m. finish?
Yeah, exactly.
How do they schedule this match?
And this is the thing. But it's also because it was on center court.
Yes.
And then the matches before it may have went a little bit longer. So when they say there's a start time, it's not really official.
It's a tentative start time.
Yeah, exactly. So U.S. Open champion Coco Gauff said tennis matches finishing at 3 a.m. are not healthy for players.
I'm sure.
Now, she went on to have a press conference and talk about that. Let's take a listen to hear what she had to say about this whole ordeal.
So early in the morning.
Yeah, I definitely think finishing at 3 a.m. is I feel like a lot of times people think it's, you're done, but really 3 a.m., then you have press, and then, you have to shower, eat, and then a lot of times people do treatment, so that's probably not going to bed till 5 at the earliest, maybe 6, and then even 7, so I definitely think it's not healthy and maybe not fair for those who have to play late because it does ruin your schedule. I've been lucky I haven't been put in a super late finish yet.
Yeah, it is interesting when you get the player's perspective on it, and especially, a top player, you know what I mean? So, that it's not just like you finish and go home like me playing hockey on a Sunday night. Do you know what I mean? It's, they have treatment, they have to eat, they're showering, all these kinds of things. So, and she goes on to talk about, I don't want to bore everyone with everything else she said, but she was saying that, things need to be taken into account, and maybe they're not playing so late. But out of the 4, the majors, if you will, at Wimbledon, matches can't go past 12 a.m.
Oh, really?
So they have to stop before then. Whereas at the French Open, the Australian Open, and U.S. Open, for TV rights and these kind of things,
they continue.
Some matches start at 11 p.m. Now, maybe some people thought that Djokovic would have finished this quickly, but no, it took
apparently not.
Almost 5 hours.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So let's move on from that. What else do you have for us?
Well, we got to talk about the Champions League final that took place in London at Wembley over the weekend. despite suffering and defending the mass majority of the final, clinging on for dear life at times, which I kind of found the game a bit boring. I watched it.
Sure.
And Real Madrid will leave London with a record extending 15th Champions League title, or European Cup, if you will, from late goals from Danny Carvajal and Vinicius Jr. So they won 2-0, breaking the hearts of Dortmund fans around the world, which it was kind of... There was one guy, Ian Maatsen, he was at fault for... I don't want to say at fault because he caused the corner kick, but... I think he would like to have certain parts of that game back, and it would help him out a bit.
Yes.
Yeah, so, it was pretty amazing to see their 15th title, and also for a few players like Danny Carvajal, Luka Modric, these guys, it's their 6th Champions League title.
Wow.
6 Champions League title, which is kind of unbelievable. Not since losing 1-0 to Liverpool in 1981, the year I was born, has Real been defeated in a European Cup final. That's unbelievable.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, for sure.
So big congrats to them. And you would think like a team like Real Madrid would be set, right? But then, actually, we've been hearing about this for so long.
Yes.
That, that Kylian Mbappe would be moving to Real Madrid.
Sure.
But now...
it's official.
It's official.
Official.
But that was like the biggest kept secret. It wasn't even a secret.
No, it wasn't
Everybody
a secret.
knew.
Yeah, there was a verbal agreement back in February, but there's been 2 verbal agreements previously. So, he moves to Real Madrid on a free transfer, which his deal with PSG expires on June 30th. The France striker verbally agreed, like I said, back in February. Now, here's kind of we don't know everything about his deal, but I'm going to throw some numbers at you.
Okay, here we go.
And people will be like, what? So, he's agreed to a deal until 2029. So, he's locked in for a good period of time.
Sure.
That's 15 million euros a season. Okay, so I know it's pretty high.
Okay.
But he also gets 150 million euros signing bonus.
Nice.
All right, which will be paid over 5 years, which is great for the team because they didn't have to pay a transfer fee. A transfer fee probably would have been 200 million euros, if not more.
That was why, since last year, there was a lot of talk about this whole deal. Is he going to leave on a free?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what are they going to pay from?
And why PSG are not so happy about the whole thing, right? So but it'd be interesting to see how it goes. He also was a big thing about this deal was that he could keep a percentage of his image rights, and maybe we could talk about that on another day because it's something that's coming up more and more with the upper echelon athletes because their teams are making money off them and they want a piece of that deal too, right? Moving on here, we got a couple of minutes here for some more headlines.
Yes.
Now, I was hoping to come in here today and talk about the LPGA Tour. The U.S. Open took place last weekend at Lancaster Country Club in Pennsylvania.
Sure.
I don't want to say it was a weekend to forget for the Korean contingent on tour, but it wasn't their best.
They were there in round 3. I saw some of the names moving up the leaderboard.
Yeah.
And then no.
But it was. I don't want to take anything away from the players because I think they all played obviously their best. But just highlight Australian Minjee Lee's weekend, if you will, or week.
Yes.
Going into the final day, she was looking like she was going to be the winner.
Yes.
She shot 8 over par on the final day to finish with a +3.
8 over par.
That's unheard of.
For a person of her caliber.
And especially somebody who would have been dialed in to be leading the tournament, right?
I would be happy with an 8 over par.
And then also Allison Lee from the U.S. She was also in contention and then dropped down a few spaces. Only 2 players finished under par, which is kind of crazy. Now, moving real quick to the Canadian Open that was taking place in Hamilton, Ontario over the weekend. Scotland's Robert McIntyre was the first rookie to win this event. But it was kind of the highlight for me was actually a golf fan, Paul Emerson, had the experience of a lifetime because C.T. Pan in the final round, his caddy got injured.
Yes.
He's an older gentleman, but he's been on tour for forever.
Yes.
Fluff. He got injured. He tripped over in the fairway. But from the fan area, this guy, Emerson, was like, hey, do you need some help? And Pan said, sure. So he got the bib, the caddy's bib from Fluff.
What a dream come true. Can you imagine? You're there and you're like, You want to be my caddy?
But it's kind of a pretty dramatic scenario because he only did 2 holes. Then another guy came out, and then he ended up having a 4th caddy by the end of the round.
Sure.
So it was a pretty eventful day, but he went on, Canadian networks across the country talking about how it was such an amazing feeling, and then get to meet the golfers, which is cool.
Yes. I mean, I would just die if I got to be a caddy for
it'd be awesome.
Amazing. What a great story. We're going to end it on that happy note.
Sure.
So we'll definitely check in with you next week. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, it is time to wrap up our number 1. So, how about this 취미? 취미 있는 사랑 by 가을 방학. Enjoy. I'll be back at 8.
만화책도 영화도 아닌 음악 감상도 아닌 사랑에 빠지게 된다면 취미가 같으면 좋겠다. 난 어떤 다 물었더니 미안하지만 자기 취향이 아니라 하네. 주말에는 영화관을 찾지만 어딜 가든지 음악을 듣지만 조금 비싼 카메라도 있지만 그런 걸 취미라 할 수는 없을 것 같아. 좋아하는 노래 속에서 맘에 드는 대사와 장면 속에서 사람과 사람 사이 흐르는 온기를 느끼는 것이 가장 소중하다면서 물을 준 화분처럼 웃어 보이네. 미소가 어울리는 그녀 취미는 사랑이라 하네. 얼마나 예뻐 보이는지 그냥 사람 표정인데 몇 잔의 커피값을 아껴 지구 반대편에 보내는 그 맘이 네모난 맘에 내 맘에 걸려 또 그만 들여다보게 돼. 내가 취미로 모은 제법 감 나가는 컬렉션. 그녀는 꼭 남자애들이 다투던 구슬 같대.
Your bridge to the world. BEFM 부산 영어방송.
부산의 축제 어디까지 즐겨보셨나요? 과거와 현재, 미래가 공존하는 항구도시 부산. 이곳 부산은 계절을 물들이는 다양한 축제로 늘 풍성합니다. 봄의 시작을 알리는 봄꽃 축제부터
Hi, Professor.
중 휴대전화 사용은 모두에게 위험합니다. 우리 모두를 위한 교통안전. 나부터 실천하면 모두가 안전해집니다. 어린이가 안전하게 뛰어놀 수 있는 부산. 아이 키우기 좋은 도시는 우리 모두의 미래이자 희망입니다. 이 캠페인은 어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
Hi everyone, I'm Ressa from Indonesia. It's my 4th year living here in Busan as an undergraduate student at Gyeongsang University. Let me first describe what my hometown looks like. Jakarta, Indonesia is surrounded by beautiful oceans, exotic temples, and strong dialects. Does any of this ring a bell? Yes. The descriptions also fit very well with Busan. 7 beaches, attractive temples like Haedong Yeonggongsa, and we can't forget the famous dialect, Busan 사투리. And that's when I knew Busan was going to be my second home. I grew up so much in Busan that I even mentor other students from Indonesia to help them with their Korean and life in Busan. When I teach them Korean, I sometimes see myself using 사투리. Looking back, I remember struggling to understand what my professors were saying because they were using 찐 Busan 사투리, you know, the real Busan dialect. But I think that's what makes Busan more of my home. Through the dialect, I feel the warm jong that no other city can mimic. Global City Busan. We are in it together. This campaign is brought to you by BEFM 부산 영어방송.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
It's morning!
And what a lovely morning!
Dynamic Busan.
Good morning! Good morning!
Good morning!
Good morning.
Hello, Chevy.
What show is this?
Hello!
Hello, baby.
Hey, buddy.
Hello, everybody. Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now 8 o'clock and this is News Highlights. South Korea to suspend 2018 Inter-Korean Military Pact. The Presidential National Security Council, or NSC, decided yesterday to suspend the September 19th military agreement until mutual trust is restored in response to North Korea's massive sending of trash-carrying balloons into South Korea. The NSC held a meeting with related ministries to evaluate North Korea's recent series of provocations and agreed to propose a motion suspending the comprehensive military agreement during a cabinet meeting slated for today. The NSC concluded that North Korea's recent provocations have caused real harm and threats to South Korean citizens and negatively impacted the military's readiness posture. Government reviewing accepting trainee doctors' resignations. The health ministry said yesterday it will actively review accepting resignations by striking doctors to allow them to seek other career paths while devising ways of minimizing disadvantages to returnees. The ministry, however, warned of necessary responses to a possible strike by community doctors amid growing concerns that the move would further disrupt the country's medical system due to the month-long walkout by junior doctors. The government also announced that the Korean medical licensing examination will be held as scheduled from September 2nd to November 4th as part of efforts to protect trust in the exam and in consideration of those who have been preparing to take the test. Yoon conducts bilateral summits with African leaders. President Yoon Suk-yeol yesterday began holding a series of bilateral summits with leaders from African nations visiting the country to attend this week's Korea-Africa Summit. Yoon met separately with leaders from 10 countries, including Zimbabwe and Rwanda. He also hosted a welcome banquet last night for the visiting delegations. Yoon said Seoul hopes to lay the foundation for comprehensive cooperation during the summit, including the exchange of information related to critical minerals, technological collaboration, and joint exploration. The inaugural Korea-Africa Summit is scheduled today and tomorrow, which will bring together delegations from 48 African countries. SK chairman apologizes after record divorce ruling. SK chairman Choi Tae-won issued an apology yesterday for the distress his personal matter has caused to the corporation's employees and stakeholders following a record 1.38 trillion won divorce settlement ruling. Choi promised to do his best to ensure that the ruling does not pose negative impacts on both SK and the international economy. The statement came during an extraordinary meeting as SK executives deemed that the divorce payment will inevitably affect the capital structure and management of SK companies. Israel confirms death of former hostages in Gaza. The Israeli Defense Forces have confirmed the deaths of former people abducted by Hamas on October 7th and have informed the families. It says the four were killed while together during an Israeli operation in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, adding that their bodies were still being held by the militants. This comes as the two sides are considering a 6-week ceasefire plan presented by U.S. President Joe Biden, which faces vocal opposition from some members of Israel's government. This was News Highlights. It's time for Issue Waggle Waggle. We have Haley back in the studio. Welcome back.
I'm back.
That's right. So our first story. There's been an accusation of police brutality that apparently led to a suspect getting paralyzed.
Right. So this happened on May 10th. A man in his 50s was apparently under police interrogation at Asan Police for obstruction of justice. And this man, during the 2-hour questioning, apparently did swear and ramble. He was intoxicated. But according to the police, there wasn't any physical altercation. However, so the questioning lasted into the early morning the following day. Around 1:30 a.m., he apparently suddenly stood up and bent forward, but apparently not in a threatening manner. However, still an officer with the department pulled him back by grabbing onto the back of his neck.
Oh.
And then at that point, he fell backwards and he couldn't get up. He did eventually get up, but after that, he apparently couldn't walk on his own. But even in this condition, the police actually sent him to a different precinct that had a detention cell, which is where he stayed. And then it was just around 7 a.m., which was hours after the fall, which is when the police noticed something was wrong and rushed him to the hospital. Turns out, the doctors there said that the C5 and the C6 on his spine were paralyzed, and he had to go through emergency surgery.
Oh my goodness. So this is quite serious.
Right.
It wasn't just like it wasn't any
like
brutality, bruise or something, right? So how could they not notice something was like really wrong? I mean, if he could have moved.
The explanation seems to me at least closer to excuses. The police said that at the point when he came in, he was intoxicated. So there was a possibility, they said, that he was hurt before he came into the police station, which still no reason not to take him to the hospital.
So that means regardless, then maybe they knew that something was wrong.
So the thing is, he could walk fine before that incident, before the fall. So it seems not likely. So the team that was in charge of this individual didn't even report it to the captain. And because the victim didn't lodge a complaint, mostly because he was undergoing surgery, they didn't even try to figure out what happened. It was only towards the end of the month, weeks later, when the family of the victim visited in protest, they began going through the CCTV footage. So the case has been brought up to the Chungnam Regional Police Agency, which is conducting a direct investigation, and the 2 officers who are directly involved with the case, they've been suspended.
I mean, I do understand, that the police have a job to do. However, I mean, suspects, they have rights as well.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm just saying. All right, this next case is another frustrating one, I'm afraid, involving a bus driver who was basically on his phone when he caused a fatal accident.
And I'm not even talking about like on the phone, like on a call. He was looking at his screen. He was reading a text message. And so he was driving an express bus, those giant buses. And he rear-ended a van inside a tunnel on the Dangjin-Yeongdok Expressway.
Yes.
This happened last October. That accident killed 4 out of 10 people who were in the van.
Oh my goodness.
So he testified to the police that his eyes were temporarily off the road because he was reading a text message. But despite this, the verdict came down on Sunday. The defendant was sentenced to 3 years in prison with a 5-year probation.
3 years?
He's actually not going to jail because he's on probation. So the court did acknowledge that this was a grave accident, but he confessed, and most importantly, he did reach a settlement with the families of the victims, thus providing the court a reason for the sentence reduction. So, yeah.
But 4 lives were lost.
4 lives
I'm
were
just saying.
lost.
I mean, I understand maybe according to the letter of the law or the sentencing guidelines. I'm just saying, though, 4 lives are gone.
Right. And also, I mean, no one should be looking at their phone when they're driving. But especially when you're driving an express bus.
Yeah, I mean, the lives of so many people,
Right.
literally on your hands,
Yeah.
right? All right, let's move on from this story. Rupert Murdoch, the media tycoon, he has just tied the knot again. And again, we talk about, is it the 5th time now?
It is the 5th time. The 93-year-old Rupert Murdoch has married a 67-year-old Russian-born molecular biologist. So Murdoch, he is the biggest name in media.
Yes.
Built a global media empire. Well, he has stepped down, being 93 and all.
Sure.
The head of News Corp Media, which owns Fox News, The Times of London, The Wall Street Journal, and The Sun, the tabloid. And the photos were released on The Sun.
Sure.
So they were engaged less than 3 months ago, and they got married in a ceremony at his own vineyard estate in California. I mean, he has impressive business achievements, but also his marital history just as long.
And if you're looking on our YouTube feed, you can see our channel. You can see the photo of the new couple, newlywed couple. What is the age difference? It says 26 years.
Yeah, 26 years. 26 years. So,
yes.
His first wife was Australian flight attendant and model Patricia Booker, and then he divorced her. His second marriage did last the longest at 30 years, Scottish-Australian journalist. They also divorced, and he was married to Chinese-born TV executive Wendy Deng. Interestingly, it was at Wendy Deng's party the new couple met. Yeah, so you know, life happens. His fourth marriage to model and actress Jerry Hall ended in 2022. Now marriage number 5. So
wow,
you know, congratulations and best wishes.
Yes,
yeah,
congrats. I mean, you know what though, there is no judgment because if you want to get married once, twice, thrice, 5 times a charm, who knows, right? All right. Lastly, ending the segment on a high note, a lot of people came together so that a 90-year-old grocery store worker could retire.
Right. So I do have a brief clip prepared.
Yes.
So we'll listen to that later. It's and if you look up wa글와글, it's there. So a former New Orleans news anchor, Karen Swenson, she went to a grocery store in Louisiana that was over the U.S. Memorial Day weekend. I believe it was depends on where you were.
Yes.
But it was a hot weekend. And there she found this particular employee pushing carts in the parking lot. And, true to her roots as an anchor, as a media woman, she turned on the phone and interviewed him. Let's take a listen.
How old am I? Just made 90 in November.
Oh my Lord. So it is 90 degrees today and you are working as a 90-year-old. Why are you doing this and working so hard? Did you ever serve in the military?
To eat. That breaks my heart. Okay, he's 90. I mean, which is impressive because he is 90. He can stand upright and do physical labor. I mean, that is just
right.
That's a whole something else. So, but the thing is, it was 32 degrees in Louisiana, and then if you couldn't really hear, he's trying to make ends meet simply to eat. He said that he needs about $2,500 per month to survive, but his Social Security, aka his pension, only covers half of it. He's a veteran.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he was served in the Air Force. So
yes.
So even as an Air Force veteran, the pension doesn't cover his livelihoods.
That's sad.
That is very sad.
When you serve for your country, and it's not like, in this U.S., it's not like mandatory.
Right. And you did enlist. And I mean, right. So it goes to our topic again. If you hold the country up for such a long time, shouldn't the country hold you back up in return?
So
anyways, but humanity sometimes does the right thing. So she actually started what's called a GoFundMe campaign, which is basically a website where you can start your own fundraisers. And of course, she has connections in the media. But on behalf of Mr. Dylan McCormick, in just 24 hours, they raised more than $200,000, enough for him to retire.
Oh, he needs to retire.
Right.
For all the people that donated.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, and he thanked everyone and stated that, in his age, this is a miracle.
It is. It is. I love these stories, though.
I love that she went above and beyond. I mean, she could have just, bought food for him or something, which would have been nice on its own, but really using that position to elevate other people. What a wonderful story.
I agree. And
let's all do this.
And the fact that she was just like, okay, this is just second nature, get her phone out and start filming and asking him questions.
Exactly.
I love that too.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we're going to end it on that happy note.
So thank
you for all the issues. We'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you, Haley.
Have a great day.
All right. Well, let's get to our next song. Here it is. Oh, no. I always do this because I look at the song coming up and I get excited and I want to hear it. But I got to get you your updated traffic and weather. It is now 14 past the hour. Here's your updated traffic report. It is looking slow on Gwangan Bridge going toward the Daeyeon overpass. It's congested on Yeonsu-ro from Suyeong to Mangmi intersection as well right now. And one more bout of congestion being reported back up on the Chungjangdaero from pier number 5 to pier number 3. It's currently 19 degrees under partly cloudy skies. Well, it seems that the sun will be bright and strong later in the afternoon for a high of 26. Across the nation, it will be mostly clear with some clouds appearing in Gangwon, and there might be some rain coming down on the eastern coast of southern Gyeongbuk and showers in parts of Gangwon and Cheonnam. You might even have some thunder and lightning in the afternoon in those parts. So what does that mean? We're going to have to be extra cautious if especially we're out on the road driving. And this was your traffic and weather. And here it is now. This is Frank Sinatra with Come Fly With Me.
Come fly with me, let's fly away. If you can use some exotic booze, there's a bar in far Bombay. Come fly with me, let's fly away. Come fly with me, let's float down to Peru. In Llama Land, there's a one-man band and he'll toot his flute for you. Come fly with me, let's take off in the blue. Once I get you up there where the air is rarefied, we'll just fly starry-eyed. Once I get you up there, I'll be holding you so near. You may hear angels cheer, 'cause we're together. Weather-wise, it's such a lovely day. Just just say the words and we'll beat the birds down to Acapulco Bay. It's perfect for a flying honeymoon, they say. Come fly with me, let's fly away. Once I get you up there where the air is rarefied, we'll just glide starry-eyed. Once I get you up there, I'll be holding you so near. You may hear angels cheer, 'cause we're together. Weather-wise, it's such a lovely day. You just say the words and we'll beat the birds down to Acapulco Bay. It's perfect for a flying honeymoon, they say. Come fly with me, let's fly, let's fly. Pack up, let's fly away.
All right, welcome back. One last time with our text topic before we get into our special interview. We're asking about your hobbies, past, present, future. And let's see. Tommy's was really interesting. Tommy Waver, who said this. He said in the past, he was into extreme sports. What does that mean? Extreme sports, like what? I mean, how extreme are we talking about? I'm curious. And then he says, presently, he's into cooking. Ooh. And then he says, future, extreme sports again. So we want to know specifically, if you're still listening, yes, what kind of extreme sport are you talking about? Are you talking about like extreme like rock, climbing? Or are you talking about like MMA? I don't know. How extreme are we talking about? Let's see. Let's also, Leslie, she mentioned something really interesting. She gave a shout out to the Korean women's national soccer team, the national football team. They were actually in Colorado, with a friendly against the U.S. women's team. It was kind of a blowout, meaning a shutout. The U.S. Team did win. I think it was 4-0, if I'm not mistaken. But then she said, she did mention that in Denver, in defense of the South Korea team, according to Leslie, that, in Colorado, especially in Denver, they're at a high altitude. So it's very hard to transition to play. And she says that even for concerts or events, they always have oxygen backstage or on the sidelines. And she says it's not a joke. It takes about 6 weeks for the body to acclimate here, oxygen-wise. So I've only been to Denver once, and I was really, really little. I had to go for a cousin's wedding, so I don't remember. But oh my goodness, I didn't realize it takes that long for your body to acclimate to that high of an altitude. So thanks for sharing. Okay, so Tommy, follow up. Skydiving and scuba diving. Oh, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. But yeah, but also be careful, whatever it is that you do in terms of, yes, your hobbies. And I believe Stella also sent in beautiful photos of, her garden or her parents' garden. So she sent in photos. She says she enjoys making floral arrangements and she wants to try gardening. And so that's why she sent in some beautiful, beautiful peonies that have bloomed in her parents' garden. So thank you for that. That is such a beautiful array of photos from your parents' garden. All right. And now I'll be back with our special interview. today's special interview is going to focus on the latest between the two Koreas. You know, in the past week, we've reported on this. North Korea floating these huge balloons full of basically trash and even feces here in South Korea. Simulated nuclear strikes, allegedly jamming GPS navigation signals. Does seem like an escalation in provocation. In response, well, what has the South done? We're going to find out more about this story. Let's invite Professor Brian Myers. He's a professor and Korea analyst at Dongseo University. So let's say hi to him. Hi, welcome to the program. How are you?
Hi there, Catherine.
Yes. So let's first of all talk about these trash balloons. I mean, even Kim Yo-jong of North Korea, who holds the position, one of many, deputy director of the Workers' Party, referred to these trash balloons as a kind of quote unquote gifts. So what do you make of this?
Well, this kind of thing isn't all that new. You know, North Korea used to send leaflet balloons over the DMZ into South Korea pretty regularly. And in 2016, when President Park Geun-hye was in office, North Korea sent balloons into South Korea that were carrying bags of trash or excrement. So the tactic itself is not really new, but the sheer scale of it this time is. I don't think North Korea has ever sent hundreds upon hundreds of balloons across the DMZ in a matter of days, as it has done this time.
The timing of these balloons, in your opinion, Professor, might it have to do with, for example, the trilateral summits that were going on between and among Korea, Japan, China, or any military exercises? What do you think?
I don't think so. I think that we need to look at the root cause, and I believe the root cause really is what the North Koreans say it is, namely the leaflet balloons, which the South Korean NGOs and defector groups have been sending over the DMZ into North Korea for quite some time now. As you know, they were criminalized under the Moon administration, but then the Constitutional Court here in South Korea overturned that criminalization, saying that it was an unfair curtailment of their freedom of speech. But, these balloons from the southern side, they tend to pick up in good weather. And the last time, I believe, when those bags carrying excrement came into South Korea, that was also May or June. So I think we should apply Occam's razor here and just use the simplest explanation.
I see. Well, when we look at where these trash balloons were found in various parts of the South, including even schools, government buildings, etc., but, how real is the threat of these balloons? Because, yes, for now, we're talking about trash, excrement, unsightly, of course, a nuisance. But what about in the future in terms of carrying biological or some sort of chemical weapons, at least in the future? Is that a real possibility?
It's a possibility, but I don't think it's a very big threat, because if North Korea were to resort to using biological or chemical weapons in peacetime as a way of, say, destabilizing South Korea, I think it would probably do so in a deniable way and not by putting them in balloons. And if a war is broken out and the North Koreans resort to using weapons of that sort, they're not going to want to put them in balloons that the enemy can see coming and take measures against. Not to mention that balloons can be blown in the wrong direction if the wind takes an unexpected turn. So I think, they'd be far more likely to use drones or something more high-tech than balloons for that sort of thing.
And so if we can talk about the ballistic missile launch on the 27th of last month as well, do you think that this is actually an escalation, or do you think it's more of a status quo, like, they're just doing what they usually do?
Yeah, well, as for the ballistic missile launch, the North Koreans have their own timetable for nuclear armament and for missile development. And that timetable kind of dictates itself to a certain extent. And there, too, weather concerns play a role. So we tend to see activity picking up in good weather. So I wouldn't see this as a concerted effort on the part of the North Koreans to try to provoke the South Koreans at this point in time. You know, the North Koreans have always been really opposed to these leaflet balloons. And this was the main reason, if you remember, why the Kim regime decided to demolish the North-South Liaison Office in Kaesong 4 years ago. That was primarily because of the South Korean leaflet balloons.
Yes.
Now, if I can explain the North Koreans' hostility to these balloons, the problem is not the South Korean leaflets, which are actually pretty crude, but the fact that the balloons signal defiance of North Korea. And that's a problem because the propaganda apparatus up there tells the North Korean people, and especially the North Korean soldiers, that the South Korean government is constantly shaking in fear of the North's military and nuclear might. So obviously, if you've got South Korean propaganda balloons floating over the DMZ, floating over the heads of soldiers, they're going to pose a serious threat to the credibility of all your muscle flexing and chest beating. So this is why I think the North Koreans have retaliated with balloons of their own. And let's face it, it was a pretty effective measure in as much as many South Koreans are now starting to realize that balloons do pose serious safety hazards. You know, Catherine, I come from Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is the hot air balloon capital of the United States and maybe the world. We have a very famous balloon festival. So we know already that balloons can cause serious damage. They can come down on power lines and they can come down on the highway. Now, of course, obviously, these are balloons on a much smaller scale, but even so, I don't think this is something that can be seen purely in terms of an exercise of free speech. And I think the North Koreans, I hate to admit this, but I think the North Koreans have got that point across. I think a lot more South Koreans are now thinking critically about this kind of activity.
I see. Let me get your opinion on this proposal by the People Power Party to resume loudspeaker broadcasts, you know, along the border with North Korea. I mean, not to get too political, but what are your opinions on this? And maybe, are there any benefits to this, drawbacks? What do you think?
Well, it's an effective threat because the North is very sensitive about those loudspeaker broadcasts for the same reason that it hates the leaflet balloons. You know, Kim Jong-un does not want the South Korean government displaying its defiance of him in that way, because obviously the entire military is going to find out and realize that North Korea does not intimidate the South Koreans after all. And to go back to Park Geun-hye again, in 2015, President Park turned on the loudspeakers to protest the landmine incident, which had injured two of those young South Korean soldiers. And even though they were playing K-pop and pretty innocuous stuff like that, the North Koreans almost came running to the negotiating table. So it's very effective. But I think for that reason, the Yoon government needs to be very careful about when it uses it. Personally, I don't think that these balloons really warrant such a measure. They are a nuisance. They pose a certain threat. And if they landed on a child, who knows what damage they could do. But if the loudspeakers go on in retaliation, then what does South Korea do if there's another landmine incident in the DMZ? And what does it do if North Korea opens fire on those loudspeakers, as it has threatened to do in the past? You know, if South Korea has been allowing NGO groups to send dozens and perhaps hundreds of balloons into North Korea, I don't think it can turn around now and act as if balloons are hugely dangerous and provocative. So if it were me, I think I would hold off on the loudspeakers until there's a more serious provocation.
I see. Thank you for thoroughly explaining your stance on this. You know, given the current state of, I guess, tensions, more so during this administration than prior, what measures do you think South Korea should be using to effectively counter some of these provocations? Like, for example, we've been talking about these balloons. What do you think is the proper, I guess, or the right kind of tone in terms of response?
Well, let me just first say that we haven't had an incident, we haven't had a killing here yet, as we had under the Moon administration when the North Koreans shot that guy in the Yellow Sea. And we had an awful lot of tension there at that time over balloons as well. So I would resist characterizing this time as one of exceptionally high tension between the two Koreas. But to go back to your question, you know, again, the root cause of this balloon business are the South Korean leaflet balloons. And while I sympathize with those defector groups. I know a lot of defectors personally, and I sympathize with their goal of spreading information into North Korea. I think launching balloons of this sort without proper authorization is illegal in most countries because they can pose a fire hazard. They can do all those things that I just talked about. And obviously, they have the potential to result in deadly misunderstandings along the DMZ, perhaps leading to gunfire and deaths. If something like that comes out of the mist on an early morning and you've got a jittery soldier there, who knows what could happen? So again, I don't see this purely as a free speech issue. I'm a free speech extremist. I believe in maximizing free speech. But I think the existing laws against litter and unauthorized ad balloons may well be sufficient to enable the authorities to stop this sort of activity. And if they aren't sufficient, I would recommend that the government sit down with the defector groups in a spirit of cooperation and have a frank discussion about how to proceed, because these balloon battles have the potential to end very badly. And I would step back a bit from the rhetoric. If the North Koreans have said they're not going to send balloons anymore, then I think the Yoon government should perhaps, pick up on that and take a step back itself.
I see. Well, thank you so much for coming on air with us and sharing your expertise and opinions regarding what's been happening here. Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you, Catherine.
This is Professor Brian Myers, and we talked about the latest about these balloons definitely making not just headlines, but a bit of a headache. What is the proper response? What tone should be struck? And I'm sure as the higher-ups are deciding on that, of course, we will follow up on the story as well. So this was your special interview. We are going to take a little song break. So here it is. This is All About That Bass by Meghan Trainor.
Because you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, bass. Yeah, it's pretty clear. I ain't no size 2, but I can shake it like I'm supposed to do. Cause I got that boom boom that all the boys chase. All the right junk in all the right places. I see the magazines working out Photoshop. We know that ain't real. Come on now, make it stop. If you got beauty, just raise them up. Cause every inch of you is perfect from the bottom to the top. Yeah, my mama, she told me don't worry about your size. She says boys like a little more booty to hold a knife. And no, I won't be no stick figure silicone Barbie doll. So if that's what you're into, then go ahead and move along. Because you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, Hey, I'm bringing booty back. Go ahead and tell them skinny bitches that. No, I'm just playing. I know y'all think you're fat, but I'm here to tell you every inch of you is perfect from the bottom to the top. Yeah, my mama, she told me don't worry about your size. She says boys like a little more booty to hold a knife. And no, I won't be no stick figure silicone Barbie doll. So if that's what you're into, then go ahead and move along. Because you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, because you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, because you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass,
listening to the world's most reliable morning show, Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Text in to BEFM #9050 for 101. You can also reach us for free through our YouTube live stream or on Kakao Talk.
It is time for Bonnie and the Health.
Good morning.
Hello. How are you?
Good.
Good. So, before we dive into our topic of discussion for today, we're talking about hobbies today. So, any past hobbies, present, something you want to try in the future? What do you do as a hobby?
My goal for the summer
Yes.
is to be able to surf.
Ooh, in
It's been
Songjeong
something-
or where?
Yeah, just anywhere. For 2 years, I've been trying to complete that as my goal, and I haven't succeeded. So this year, I want it to be a hobby that I can do regularly.
Oh, so have you ever tried it, or you've
Yeah, I've had a couple lessons, like maybe once or twice a year,
Right.
but not enough to be able to go out by myself. So that's the goal by the end
Isn't
of the
it
summer.
hard balancing on the board?
I can't even get up on the board, let alone balance.
I mean, I even
I
tried
have to stand up first and then
right.
balance.
That even the stand-up paddleboard. Like
Yeah.
some people, they do it on their first try, standing up.
I love that. I can do
And
that.
so I got on my feet for like 4 seconds, and then took a little dive into the nice warm ocean waters.
It's refreshing.
But I mean, that was a lot of fun. But I would imagine surfing is probably even harder than that.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
To any surfers out there, let us know, like, if you have any good tips, right? All right. What are we talking about today?
Well, so speaking of the ocean, today's topic is ocean health. And you might be like, what word? This is a health and wellness segment. Why are we talking about the ocean, right? But the ocean's health is actually our health also. So June 8th is World Oceans Day. This is this Saturday coming up.
Sure.
So World Oceans Day started over 20 years ago, and it's a day to promote collective action for a healthy ocean, nice, stable climate, and it reminds everybody just what a huge role the ocean really plays in our everyday lives.
Sure.
And also our health. Right? And we don't really think about this connection a lot.
Sure.
But I'm going to tell you how and why we should keep our oceans healthy in order to keep ourselves healthy.
Okay. So it's connected. Let's find out how.
Yes. So the oceans act like the lungs of our planet. So I know we normally think about trees when we think about air and oxygen that we breathe, but actually the ocean plays a larger role in cleaning our air for us, and it's actually responsible for creating over 50% of the oxygen that we breathe, and it actually absorbs 30% of the carbon dioxide created by humans. And that's actually 4 times the rate of forests. So a lot faster and a lot more than our trees do, our oceans help us breathe clean air, which is very important, right? Also, research shows being next to the ocean, actually people are more likely to be physically active. So people are healthier if they live by the ocean.
Yay
so all of you guys that live here in Busan, you're already ahead of the game.
Good.
And the ocean emits negative ions. I've talked about this before on this show, but negative ions really help to alleviate stress. It counters the effects of positive ions we get from electronics, being around lights and things that are around the studio.
Yes.
So it helps us to counterbalance all of those effects and really helps to restabilize our nervous system, really helps to alleviate any kind of stress or anxiety that people might have. And the research that backs this is so strong that actually some medical practitioners are actually prescribing these blue prescriptions.
Blue prescriptions?
Yes.
So what is this?
So that requires people to actually spend more time outside near the ocean, take walks outside, listen to the waves, go barefoot on the sand rather than turning to pharmaceuticals.
I love this. Can I show my blue prescription to my school and say, hey, my doctor said, she prescribed this. She said, I need to get out, be near the ocean. And so I'm going to just take a wellness day off.
Yeah. And if you go to the ocean, actually, I've been seeing a lot more people and a lot more elderly people walking outside barefoot.
Yeah, it's a thing now.
Yeah. And it really helps with insomnia if you have trouble sleeping at night. So lots of great health benefits. So like I said, so much that people are actually prescribing this.
I love it. I love that idea. I'm literally, if my doctor, you're listening,
prescribe
Dr.
you
Kim,
this.
prescribe this for me. Can I show my school and be like, hey, you need to take a day off? I would definitely do it. Yes.
Much better than having to take a pill.
Sure.
Right? Every day?
Yes.
Just going outside, taking a walk. So also nutrition-wise, over 3 billion people in the world rely on seafood as their main protein source.
I love seafood.
Yeah. And more people are actually ingesting plastics because of this, though. So the World Economic Forum predicted that at the current rate, if we keep going, there will actually be more plastic than fish in the ocean if you do it by weight by 2050.
That's not that far off, though.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah.
And actually right now, if you don't know this, there's a garbage truck full of plastic being dumped into the ocean every minute.
Oh, not a good image.
Not great. So if you imagine all that plastic going into the ocean, it gets broken down by the sun, waves, animals pulling it apart, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And it gets into these tiny little microplastic pieces.
Sure.
They're like kind of less than 5 millimeters or so. So very easily ingested by fish, right?
But
they can't really control what they're eating in the ocean.
We consume the fish, do we not?
Exactly. And it goes up the food chain. So even small little fish get eaten by bigger fish, and then we're at the top, right? So all of that plastic that got ingested, we get to eat all of that when we catch the fish and eat it.
No. Being sarcastic, No, we don't want microplastics.
No. Yeah, especially because plastics have a lot of chemicals in it, lots of toxins in them. So all those colorings and what plastic is made of, that's not something that we want in our body, right? So then the Marine Pollution Bulletin. It's a group of scientists from New Zealand, the US, and Tahiti. This is really interesting. They did a study on 932 different fish from 34 different fish species. All from different habitats, tropic levels. And then when they tested and pulled apart all these fish and did all these tests, they found...
wait. Do we need to brace ourselves? Hold on.
This is a pretty high number.
Okay, what is
97% of the fish had plastic debris in them. So that's
97?
almost all of them. Almost all of them had plastic in them. And of that plastic, 95% were these little microplastics. So tiny that maybe the human eye couldn't even see them.
But it's there.
Yeah, it's there, and the chemicals are getting absorbed into your bloodstream, even if you can't see them. And one of these fish even had 104 pieces of plastic inside, which is actually a world record.
How is that even possible? Ooh.
Right? You think, how is that possible? But this is telling you how much plastic is really in our ocean, right? Because if you imagine just one piece of plastic, one water bottle, or even a cap, how many pieces it can get broken down into?
That's true.
Hundreds of thousands of pieces.
And we created the plastic and we use it every day. We even talked about it, like when you get delivery food, like on average, like 6 to 7 pieces of plastic for every serving.
Yes. And a study actually came out a couple years ago. I don't know if you saw this, that humans, they have found that some humans ingest about a credit card's worth of plastic in a week. So through all, I mean, this is including like microplastics through maybe water bottles or plastic containers that you're buying. So not just in fish, but still all of it cumulative together, about a credit card's worth of plastics. That's a lot. And it's just kind of going up.
Okay, we need some something positive now. Is there anything we can do? Because we heard now, how important oceans are.
Yes.
They're our lungs, okay?
Yeah.
And then we heard about the not so great stuff.
Yeah.
The stuff that we created that's getting out there into the oceans and then it's coming back to us basically, right?
So the main point I want to stress is that it's all cyclical. So things that we do to the planet's going to do back to us. If we have a healthy planet, healthy ocean, then we will be healthier as well. But if we don't take care of the ocean, if we don't take care of the environment, that will have an effect on our health as well. So even if you don't see it directly, climate change, the changing of the weather, changing of the climate, and then especially the ocean, we will have really, really drastic effects, and that will affect us. But yes, we can help. There are things that we can do.
What can we do?
So, of course, reducing our plastic use, right? Especially the single-use plastic. Because I know in Korea we have a really great recycling system.
Sure.
But not all of that plastic gets recycled, especially in transport. A lot of it, sometimes they fall off the garbage trucks. The wind carries it. Birds actually carry a lot of plastic to the ocean.
True.
So a lot of that ends up back into either landfills because they can't get recycled, or they end up in the ocean.
And also, we assume that all plastic is recyclable, but it's not. There's
Actually,
like a certain
lot of it is not.
a lot of it. Like if you look at there are specific numbers. Certain plastics can be recycled, and then all the like the delivery food that are stained, they can't recycle that.
Yeah,
right.
Only about 10% of the plastic in the world ever gets recycled.
Right.
So even of all the plastic that we're thinking, oh, this is getting recycled, we're doing
It's
something
not.
great, it's actually not getting there.
9 out of 10 times it's not.
Yeah. So the best thing to do is just reduce your plastic use.
Okay.
Visit a zero waste store, find out ways that you can replace single-use plastic with something that is reusable over and over again.
Sure.
So your tumblers, if you're going to get, I know we love these iced Americanos, right? Every day, but maybe taking your own tumbler instead of getting that plastic cup, maybe bringing your own reusable straw also. When you're going shopping, taking a reusable bag instead of getting that the plastic bags. That makes a huge difference.
Yes.
And also just reducing your waste overall. So food waste, reducing your trash, always buying secondhand if you can.
If you can, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you really need that one thing new? Can you buy it secondhand from somebody that has already used
by somebody else?
Pre-loved by
I like
somebody
that.
else.
Pre-loved.
Yes. Can you find it? And also does help your wallet also, right? Usually you can find things much cheaper. Also buying things local.
Yes.
Always local markets, buying things that are in season also really help with climate change and reducing meat and fish intake. I know we just talked about seafood a lot, but not to scare you. But if you do reduce your seafood intake, I know the fishing industry has a lot to do with trash and the fishing nets into the marine life.
Yes.
So reducing, you don't have to quit completely, but maybe, a couple meals a week, take a break from the meat or the fish.
Well, we learned so much today. So what would you say to wrap up? Anything else that you want to mention?
Yeah, definitely. So because Saturday is World Oceans Day, we're actually going to be doing a little beach cleanup in Seongjeong to kind of help reduce the plastic use.
Okay.
And give people some tips. Sustainable tips. How can we live a more sustainable life? Because like I said, a healthy ocean means healthy people, healthy us, and a healthy future. So if you want to join in at the end of the beach in Seongjeong, if you're facing the ocean on the very right side, at 9 a.m. we'll be doing a beach cleanup, free to the public. Please come, bring
what
the
do
whole
we need
family.
To bring?
Nothing.
Just ourselves?
Yes, just yourselves. If you want to bring a reusable water bottle to hydrate and maybe some sunscreen, that would be great, but that's it.
What a great way to do something not just for ourselves, but ultimately for everyone and to do it with your family or loved ones.
Yeah.
That is a really great idea. So 9 a.m. Seongjeong Beach. If you are up to it, you'll see Bonnie there,
Yeah,
right?
come join me.
All right. Well, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention, and we'll check in with you next week. Thank you, Bonnie.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody, that was The Health. We're going to take a little song break. Here it is. This is La Mer Beyond the Sea by Bobby Darin.
Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands on golden sands and watches the ships that go sailing. Somewhere beyond the sea, she's there watching for me. If I could fly like birds on high, then straight to her arms I'd go sailing. It's far beyond the star, it's near beyond the moon. I know beyond a doubt my heart will lead me there soon. Meet beyond the shore, we'll kiss just as before. Happy we'll be beyond the sea, and never again I'll go sailing. said before. Happy we'll be beyond the sea, and never again I'll go sailing. No more sailing, so long sailing, bye-bye sailing.
All right, everybody. Today we've been talking about, as our main story, the fact that people in their 50s going up to their 60s, that they maybe have an extra burden of maybe caring for their older adult children, maybe even living with them, supporting them financially, and then also taking care of their elderly parents as well. So once again, we might all get to that one point in our lives. So I certainly hope that there are more things, a better support safety net for those in that age range. Well, I wish you all a wonderful, lovely Tuesday. Thanks for joining us today. Final song for today is Georgie Porgy by Eric Benet. So have a lovely day, everybody, and join us tomorrow. Bye.
Situation, I just need contemplation over you. I'm not so systematic, it's just that I'm an addict for your love. I'm the only one that holds you. I never ever should have told you you're my only girl. Never should have told you. I'm the only one that holds you. No, I never ever should have told you you're my only world. Just think how long I've known you. It's wrong for me to own you. Lock and key. Lock and key. It's really not confusing. I'm just a young illusion. Can't you see it? Well, I'm the only one that holds you. No, no. I should have told you you're my only girl. Never should have told me. I'm the only one that holds you. Yeah, yeah. Never should have told you you're my only world. No, no, no. Oh yeah. Kiss the girls and make them cry. Kiss the girls. Make them cry, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Kiss the girls and make them cry. Kiss the girls, yeah. Why you want kiss the girls, yeah. Oh, kiss the girls. Situation, I just need contemplation over you. Yes, I do. I'm not so systematic, it's just that I'm an addict